Hi, Candace Owens is one of the most popular podcasters in America, unfortunately. She's also one of the most cynical, desperate, and immoral political commentators on YouTube. I talk a lot about right-wingers and grifters in general, but few stand as high as Candace in terms of popularity, nor stoop as low or as desperately to pander as far to the right as possible. This includes cozying up to and defending the likes of the Tate brothers, Russell Brand, Kanye West, and even Harvey Weinstein.
I am so excited to bring forth this series. I've already explained to you why it's so special to me, mainly because the Me Too movement, I believe, has become an evil manifestation, and I have 3 sons. So let's jump right into it. Welcome to episode 1 of Harvey Speaks.
Really nice friends you got there, Candace. Candace Owens is not stupid. She's malicious, she's calculated, and she's deliberate. She spreads some of the least factual and most hateful misinformation online about a variety of topics, but she isn't like stupid. I think it's even worse. She pretends to be stupid to convince people that she's correct about something, because if you're so stupid that you can't even conceptualize a counter argument, then you must be right. Before I move on, here's a quick word from today's video sponsor.
This video was sponsored by Raycon. Folks, Mother's Day is coming up, and if you're looking for a great gift for your mom, or if you are a mom, you should try Raycon. Moms are some of the busiest people in the world. From managing work, family, and her own life too, moms deserve a chance to listen to their favorite podcasts or music without having to break the bank and without having to compromise on quality. Here, check these out.
I like the black ones because they're especially stealthy. I don't want anybody coming up to me asking me what I'm listening to, and I wouldn't even be able to hear them anyway because of the quality of the everyday earbuds and because of active noise cancellation. Can't hear you. Sorry. No one will stop me for some street interview on their TikTok page. I don't even want to hear them. Your mom would love Raycon's everyday earbud. From working out in the gym to taking important girl boss business calls, your mom can have premium audio in her pocket at all times. And you did that, and she'll call you with the earbuds and you'll be able to hear her better. She'll say, "Thank you, child." The latest everyday earbuds have a 32-hour battery life and multi-point connectivity to keep your mom charged and plugged in on any device she needs. And for moms on the go, Raycon earbuds quick charge in just 10 minutes, giving you 90 minutes of battery life off just that short little charge. I love efficiency. I love moms. I use everyday earbuds when I'm traveling. The active noise cancellation is a must, not just to avoid street interviews, but especially on airplanes. The noise for me is really overwhelming and I can't sleep unless I have something to cancel it out. I gotta hear Family Guy at full volume. And the best part is, Raycon starts at just half the price of other premium audio brands. So if you or your mom are looking for a reliable, quality pair of affordable earbuds, do yourself a favor and go to the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/EdenRiley for 15% off site-wide. That's a great deal and you shouldn't miss out. Again, go to buyraycon.com/EdenRiley for 15% off site-wide. Get your mom a gift, come on, then call her with it. Thank you so much to Raycon for sponsoring this video, and thank you to moms everywhere for your service. Let's get back to the video. Candace's agenda has always been to foster and spread hate. She does this often by lying, or lying by omission, or inviting a guest onto her podcast to lie. She also regularly weaponizes her identity as a black woman to undermine both black people and women, depending on how she's trying to defend, right-wing sentiment or the Trump administration.
I don't believe that police brutality is an issue. I think that people are believing it's an issue because the media focuses on it. This is something that I speak about obviously all the time because they particularly use it to try to persuade black Americans into believing that we're somehow targeted by police officers, which couldn't be further from the truth. I'm much more concerned about black on black crime.
And when she's not doing that, she's lying about trans people, Muslims, refugees, Jewish people, victims of police brutality, immigrants, pregnant teenagers, and otherwise victimized women. Where all the real power in society is. Candace is always punching up. And Owens is far more popular than she really has any right to be, especially considering how bland and boring her content is. She manages to keep her audience relatively captured by, I guess, giving them the thrill of feeling like they're being let in on some kind of conspiracy or big Illuminati situation. She's lying. Like most right-wing content, it's made for people who already agree with it, to click on it and nod their head and like and subscribe. Or it's at least made for people who are predisposed to seeking out justifications for things they already believe, if they don't already fully believe what Candace is saying to begin with. And for all the things that you can certainly say that Candace Owens is, one thing that I will insist she is not is an anti-Zionist. Now, I don't think this video in particular is important or anything, but I am making it for a reason that's at least important to me. Some people with much larger platforms than myself have taken to harassing smaller creators, doxing Instagram commenters.
That's him.
Oh.
That's him right there. Trust me, when I see an anti-Semite, I know I can spot him.
Wow. Spot him from a crowd.
That's him. So I don't know if you guys all know that, but your friend Joe here actually is a fucking giant racist piece of shit. And like he likes to tell Jewish people they're going to hell on Instagram, on his public profile. I don't know if any of you guys know him, but certainly anyone who would employ him, or probably even his parents, would be pretty disappointed to see that, although who knows. Here's his mom.
Sometimes, some people will use entirely fabricated evidence to call somebody out.
She won a Rising Star Award at the Streamer Awards, an award show put on by her friends. And then, the next year, guys, she gets nominated for Rising Star again.
All under the guise of fighting anti-Semitism, when none of the people targeted by this creator are anti-Semitic, not even close. In fact, some of them are even Jewish, but, you know, of course, they're anti-Semitic too, and they're tokens according to him.
And Matt Lieb is one of these guys who's like, he's Jewish, and he loves that because he allows himself to be tokenized to the max. I am the token good Jew. He's on the approved list of good Jews that Hassan wants me to talk to. You really got to talk to this guy, Matt Lieb. There's these groups called like Jewish Voices for Peace. I criticize them as being like allowing themselves to be tokenized.
How are you going to tweet stuff like that? That's just not okay.
Well, that's why he tokenizes himself so he can feel special. And that's the thing too. When you tokenize yourself, especially on Twitter, your voice gets amplified. They bring you to the front of the crowd. Jews are allowed to have different perspectives and stuff, but this man is like the embodiment of a fucking Jewish token. Like, holy fuck.
To you, as a representative of all Jews, I am a bad representative.
Why'd you even say that? It's like, bro, he's playing the token card. Anyway, this is Matt Lieb, everybody who works for Good Mythical Morning. What a fucking piece of shit, weirdo, freak, little token boy is he. And I can call him token because, I mean, he's like, hey guys, I'm the token. Anyone want to hear some Jew jokes? Gather around. Y'all want to know why Jews have big noses? Anybody? Because air is free. Check me out. I'm the token Jew, not Zionist. You don't need the token, bro. Try without it, please. But anyway, here he is with Frogan, a disgusting human being in her own right. He brought her on his show to run defense for her, once again, as the token Jew. Can you just share an opinion without starting as a Jew, you fucking pathetic tokenized bitch? He needs the token.
Based?
I mean, he's clearly not that funny. Bro, you're so much more than a token. Seriously, you need to embrace, like, being an actual human being.
Meanwhile, on the other hand, there are actual open white supremacists and Nazis in the American government, in positions of serious material power and influence. Coincidentally, also weaponizing allegations of anti-Semitism against student protesters who speak out against a genocide in Gaza. This Nazi-occupied government is arresting, detaining, and trafficking these students against their will and against the fucking Constitution for speaking out against genocide and apartheid. Because I'm sure they definitely want to fucking prosecute anti-Semitism. That's why they've arrested David Duke, right? And despite everything happening on the ground, from suppression of speech by the American government to IOF forces doing an extermination campaign in Gaza, Ethan Klein has tried to censor and silence every pro-Palestinian voice he possibly can, including other Jewish people, lying, saying that they are fostering or spreading anti-Semitism. Candace Owens, on the other hand, has normalized heinous anti-Semitic neo-Nazi propaganda in the fucking mainstream podcasting space, regularly guesting on popular podcasts and television shows hosted by people, with all due respect, that aren't really capable or even interested in pushing back on her genocidal narrative. Candace's overt anti-Semitism is becoming increasingly popular as she grows her brand tremendously. Meanwhile, Ethan has taken to attacking the very few people who would be able to call out Candace Owens for co-opting anti-Zionist language and progressive posturing to launder her anti-Semitism. And that's fucking gross to me. So I'm making this video about how nasty and fucking gross Candace Owens is. She is not one of us, and she never fucking will be. Candace has been a popular far-right provocateur and commentator for several years now. First showing up alongside Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA, and in 2021 recruited by The Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro. Her dead-eyed, racist ramblings captured the hearts of millions, and Candace Owens quickly became a fan favorite for Daily Wire fans that do exist. A black woman aggressively victim blaming George Floyd and other victims of police violence and brutality is just exactly the kind of thing white people would need to keep up appearances that they're not racist. A black woman is saying the racist things that I agree with and think, come on, I'm not racist, I'm just asking questions. Like, what if the police are right every time? Candace actually did an entire, I guess, documentary, hard to even call it that, for the failed Daily Wire Plus streaming service. The documentary was about George Floyd's murder, trying to absolve Derek Chauvin of any responsibility.
How did you feel watching the trial?
I thought it was a sham.
Much like Candace's other defense of clearly guilty individuals, her arguments are nothing you haven't already heard before and haven't already been argued in their defense in court, and were obviously not effective arguments because pig's in jail where he belongs. But none of that stops Candace Owens and her fucking audience of drones from repeating shit that isn't real or doesn't matter. Now, this was a few years ago, probably 2022, she made that stupid series. And recently, Ben Shapiro has kind of picked up the baton, I'm guessing because all of the stuff that she wrote is still Daily Wire property, technically, so he could just recycle her talking points and try to get some of her edgy audience back.
The autopsy of George Floyd showed that he had no damage to his trachea, that probably George Floyd died of excited delirium.
Really fucking gross. Part of Candace's success at the Daily Wire was because of how much money they spent marketing to try to make her look like some kind of investigative journalist, which she has the investigative skills and discernment of like a 6-year-old. Now, around a year ago, Candace Owens and the Daily Wire parted ways, seemingly due to ideological differences on the apartheid state of Israel. Make no mistake, Candace Owens is far from being pro-Palestine. She's not even anti-apartheid. The only thing that comes up when you look up segregation on her YouTube channel is about how white people are discriminated against and how black people are inferior.
First off, an all-black dorm is racist, and this is my problem, is that somehow we've arrived suddenly into a place where black Americans are authoring the exact same thing that our ancestors fought to end. Discrimination, segregation, but we've made a spin on it and said, but this is a positive form of discrimination. This is a positive form of segregation because we're choosing it. It's wrong. It's just wrong. I mean, I don't see how you can't just plainly say an all-black dorm is racist.
Owens is a Catholic Christian nationalist. She wants America to be the Christian state. Owens directly associates every genocidal action the Israeli state and leadership engage with to Jewish people and Judaism in general, and in doing so intentionally and wrongfully paints all Jewish people as members of an inherently fascist, genocidal, warmongering, expansionist ideology. Kind of exactly what she does to Muslims. But this is also what, for example, Netanyahu also says about Judaism. According to the government of Israel, Israel does represent all Jewish people. A lot of Zionists say that, as a matter of fact, even though there are more Zionist Christians in America than there are Jewish people in the entire world. So, like, whose ideology is Zionism, really? But don't worry about that. Candace Owens wants you to think that this is all Jewish people and this is all their fault. In my research, I have uncovered what I believe are 3 pretty valid strikes against Candace Owens, baseball style, that more or less represent her anti-Semitism and more covert political goals in general. Is that okay? Like and subscribe. One strike is from a campus speech she gave with Charlie Kirk and TPUSA in 2018. The other 2 are from videos on her channel, one of which has been unfortunately deleted and paywalled. You have to be a Candace, what is it, a Candace member? You have to be a member of Candace Club to watch it on our website, Candace Club. But I saved it, and I'm not part of Candace Club. Sorry, Candace. Candace Owens has changed quite a bit as a political commentator over time. But I want to point out that her pushback to the Daily Wire's narrative on active genocide is not a product of her empathy or her historical analysis. It is, however, a convenient way for Candace Owens to distance herself from the material evidence of Israel's genocide and apartheid while appearing aesthetically consistent, at least to her stupid audience, when the only consistency really is villainizing Jewish people. So rather than coming out against imperialism or expansionism or settler terrorism, genocide, apartheid, ethnic cleansing, any of the actual material factors that have created the environment for Israel to do this genocide, she's got nothing to say about any of that. She moves on instead to the easiest thing to do: blame Jews. I mean, if I'm being honest, I think Candace just smelled more impressions in the Christ is King, Catholic, far-right, fascist, Nazi, booger-eating grift. It's an extremely online, extremely impressionable, extremely stupid demographic of people whose political ideology is basically incoherent. It's a pretty easy market for someone as cynical as Candace. And it allows Candace to say whatever's convenient for her to get clicks. She still gets to support Trump, who loves Israel, but you're never gonna hear her talk about that shit.
I'm not gonna call this as a prediction, but in my opinion, the Jewish people would have a lot to do with a loss. If I'm at 40%, if I'm at 4, think of it, that means 60% are voting for Kamala. Current polling has me with Jewish citizens, Jewish people, people that's supposed to love Israel, after having done all of that, having been the best president, the greatest president by far, a poll just came out. I'm at 40%.
And she also gets to run stories saturated with anti-Semitic conspiratorial narratives. It's a win-win for her, and it's gross. While Candace Owens might not disagree with the principles of ethno-states or apartheid, she's not gonna tarnish her brand defending what is undeniably genocide. Instead, she'll blame the Jews at large for it, which is so dangerous. Also, just fucking wrong. Who is supplying the bombs, Candace? Who's doing the censorship? Who's giving diplomatic and political cover for Israel? And Candace may have tried this direction a little bit at the Daily Wire, or maybe pitched it to her higher ups, and that might have led to the tensions that got her ousted. It could have also been hanging out with Kanye West while he was saying super anti-Semitic stuff.
Misdiagnosed by I'm not going to say what race, what people, doctor, and what hospital, and what media went to. We know I can't say that. It was a Jewish doctor.
Ben Shapiro be like, I love the White Lives Matter stuff, but can you chill on the Jews? That's me. All right, strike one. At a Turning Point USA conference in 2018, titled An Evening with Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens. Oh wait, this isn't even Turning Point USA, it's Turning Point UK. That's crazy. I didn't even know that existed.
I actually don't have any problems at all with the word nationalism. I think that it gets, the definition gets poisoned by elitists that actually want globalism. Globalism is what I don't want. So when you think about, whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, at least in America, is Hitler. You know, he was a National Socialist, but if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German, everybody to look a different way. That's not, to me, that's not nationalism.
Look a different way. That's the opposite of what he wanted. The thing that I can at least appreciate about Candace is that she doesn't tiptoe around it. She'll just say, I'm down with Hitler. I'm rocking with Hitler. He was just a little too globalist. I love saying this in the UK, by the way. Like a country that was actually bombed by Nazi Germany. Come on, what if he just wanted to make Germany great again? He said he wanted to. Globalism is not what made Hitler invade Poland. Nationalism did that.
That's not, to me, that's not nationalism.
To her, it's not nationalism. And she knows all kinds of stuff. Also, Hitler still did the Holocaust in Germany. It did happen there too. Does that go without saying that you're not praising the Holocaust? I think you could elaborate a little bit. Yeah, strike one, that was a pretty straightforward fastball. Nothing fancy on it, no mustard. Put Candace Owens in the batter cage, lock it up, throw away the key. Listen, I know this is an old clip, I know it's really short, but it is kind of a damning statement.
But if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine.
It's really funny to make the equivalence to Donald Trump seemingly on accident. Maybe it's on purpose, I don't know. This is her perspective, and she does defend it in this video titled Literally Hitler. Why can't we talk about him? I always forget what a fucking Harry Potter nerd Candace Owens is, but it makes me respect her even less than the Nazi stuff. You're literally saying Hitler is Voldemort. Grow up, dude.
Today we're going to keep the subject matter light. We're going to discuss Adolf Hitler.
I like that she did the dramatic gopher meme because she kind of looks like the dramatic gopher. Does her editor know that?
Literally Hitler is on the agenda because why can't we discuss him ever? We should. Plus, a Newsweek writer apparently has a death wish because he's written a piece entitled, Taylor Swift is not a good role model. Plus, people are apparently upset with Kyle Rittenhouse. Do you guys remember him from the Kenosha, the BLM, the shooting? He got off. It was amazing.
Guys, today we're going to keep the subject matter light. Adolf Hitler and Taylor Swift. Kyle Rittenhouse. Tune in. Her podcast is just called Candace. Not the Candace Owens Show. Not Candace in the Morning. And the intro is pictures of her. And the banner is pictures of her. And like 2 of her husband. But mostly her. Her as a baby. Her pregnant with a baby. Her doing that weird alien stare at the camera. God, she's super into herself. Okay, we haven't gotten to Hitler yet. She's praising Tucker Carlson and how he epically owned all these journalists by freaking out.
He was just giving it to the journalists because all of their questions were so predictable. And when they got on the subject of Russia, 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 because how could they resist themselves, Tucker had the best response. Take a listen.
Putin! Putin! I think you did strategically because you knew it's what we'd ask.
Putin! He's so bad!
And I also appreciate that...
Did he make you take the COVID shot?
Putin! That is exactly how a lot of us feel when they start hammering this Russia is bad narrative. Putin! And by the way, it's not just Putin. Putin! Putin. I am also so incredibly bored. I am exhausted. I am tired. I need a nap. When people start doing the Putin, the Nazi, and the, of course, literally Hitler comparisons. It's over. It's canceled. Please stop it. Literally Putin.
What an insane segue. Speaking of Putin, I also need to talk about how I'm so tired and I need a nap because people keep saying Hitler. It's canceled to say Hitler. Isn't the name of the episode Why Can't We Talk About Hitler? And the first thing she says about him is, don't even talk about him. You're canceled. I'm tired. There are plenty of people allowed to discuss Hitler, by the way. World War II historians, Holocaust scholars, people who aren't crazy.
The first time that I ever almost got canceled, it was because I was discussing Adolf Hitler in an academic sense.
Candace, you aren't an academic. Just because you were in a school doesn't make it an academic discussion. You don't know anything.
Actually, the subject wasn't even about Adolf Hitler. It was a question that was being asked of me. You remember this clip notoriously. They were asking about the word nationalism.
The question wasn't about Adolf Hitler. You brought him up.
They were asking about the word nationalism and why people are afraid of embracing the word nationalism. And I said that it was wrongly attributed to Adolf Hitler. And then BuzzFeed took me out of context. They made it seem as though I was saying Hitler was a good guy, which of course I wasn't. That's always a hoax when somebody is pretending that someone jumped up and said that.
I like that she has to phrase it like she was saying, oh, I would never say Hitler was a good guy. I just said his ambitions were pure.
And I even got blacklisted temporarily from Fox News until Stuart Varney was the first one who had me on his show. And we talked about the scandal and he gave me a piece of advice. He said, you should just never talk about Adolf Hitler. And at the time, I was so appreciative, and I reflect on that, and I'm like, what an absolute nonsense that is. Just that general idea, and that is an idea that permeates, is that we are not allowed to discuss Adolf Hitler.
Oh my God, she thinks that this was advice for everybody. No, he was giving you advice. He was saying you don't talk about Hitler.
Why? That is crazy.
This one random fucking Fox News guy said, don't talk about Hitler. And she was like, wow, this must be some kind of media conspiracy rule.
We have a visceral response when we hear his name. That's why I did the sound effect, dun, 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 because they've turned him almost into Lord Voldemort. I don't know if you're a Harry Potter fan. I definitely was and am one. And this whole concept of a dark lord who should not be named. Adolf Hitler is he who should not be named.
Harry Potter came out after Hitler. I don't know if Candace knows that. Usually like Dark Lord, evil, like fascist characters are based on Hitler. Saying that Hitler's like Voldemort is actually, it's kind of like saying the sun is like a light bulb. Like, I guess, yeah, it is like that in a way.
And what's really interesting is that when you even discuss, you would assume, since that's the entire focus, the nucleus of our idea of who a bad person is, step aside Satan because we've got Adolf Hitler.
She is saying that Hitler isn't as bad as they say, though.
My husband was like, why do Americans always use Adolf Hitler as if, he was the number one mass murderer of the 20th century? He wasn't. What is this extreme focus on Nazis and Adolf Hitler as the only comparison we can ever make?
Can we end this? This is canceled. Let's just not talk about World War II anymore. It's over. It's said and done with. Everyone who is involved and ever participated in it is pretty much dead. I think we get World War II. I think we get.
Like I said, it's because we have been indoctrinated and we actually know nothing about the person other than the fact that we must fear him.
Come on, guys. Hitler was a person too. Let's get to know the guy before we judge him. Candace's angle here at this point is pretty predictable. Hitler wasn't the worst mass murderer of the 20th century because communism killed over 100 million billion. Yeah, Stalin did that.
I got out of the bubble of the American education system and I started recognizing these Soviet tactics of introducing really heavy concepts to kids while their brains are developing because you want to traumatize them. And you're traumatizing them because you want them to comply.
Yeah, teaching kids about World War II is traumatizing them. Even though we don't talk about Hitler, we can't do it.
What you want them to comply with in this case is Germany, Nazi, Hitler, the greatest evil that's ever happened on Earth, even though factually and statistically it is not.
Factually and statistically. What are the facts and statistics that point out that Hitler isn't the most evil?
The Allies ethnically cleansed 12 million Germans. Because when you say to people, okay, what is it about Hitler? Why is he the most evil? Well, the first thing people would say is, well, an ethnic cleansing almost took place. And now I offer back, you mean like we actually did to the Germans?
Almost took place. No, it did. Ethnic cleansing did happen during the Holocaust. I don't feel like that needs to be said, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Then Candace Owens brings up Solomon Morell, a Polish NKVD labor camp guard whose family was killed by Polish Nazi police in 1942, which Candace explains like this.
Solomon Morell's an interesting character. He had some Soviet training, and then one day he just stood up on top of a table and said to these innocent German-speaking civilians, I'm going to torture you because I don't know where my parents are, and they were put into camps. And then he began to torture these individuals who were completely guilty of nothing.
It's not even close to what happened, but okay. Candace Owens leaves this out completely, but not just Morell's parents died during World War II. Solomon Morell lost over 30 members of his family during the Holocaust. Morell was a Polish labor camp commander, and Candace Owens uses this fact to try to portray Morell as some like evil Stalinist demon.
When you start recognizing that they are intentionally telling Christians to shut up about the Christians that have been killed all across the world, they get very uncomfortable when you know stuff that they did not put into your book when you were in middle school to traumatize you into compliance of believing that the only bad people ever, there's only two of them, by the way, Putin and Adolf Hitler.
When like the reality of post-war Europe was so much more complicated than that.
General George Patton Jr., you're probably familiar with his name because he was a very decorated U.S. general in World War II who led the Third Army, both in France and in Germany. Well, post-war, they appointed him as the military governor in Bavaria, and he led denazification efforts, because that's what we're doing. We're trying to denazify the territory. That's a great effort. He said, quote, "We may have been fighting the wrong enemy all along, but while we're here, we should go after the bastards now, because we're going to have to fight them eventually." He's referring to the Soviets.
Yeah, I guess Candace just fully agrees with the we're fighting the wrong enemy shit when talking about the Nazis in post-war Europe. Of course, because of how sadistic the Soviets were. Now, Candace claims that 12 million Germans were ethnically cleansed from Eastern Europe. The German Historical Museum puts the number at around 600,000, which is significantly less than what Candace said.
They hadn't even voted for Adolf Hitler, had nothing to do with anything, but they had to die. So yeah, if that's what your concern is, if you're worried about camps, we did that. If you're worried about ethnic cleansing, we did that. Don't even get me started on the camps that we forced our own American citizens into following Pearl Harbor. Yep, that's a thing as well. Of course, you remember that.
Candace then cynically brings up Asian American internment during World War II in America, as if she doesn't regularly deny that America is a racist country. I don't even know why she brought this up. We still have concentration camps to this day, from ICE facilities to fucking Sacat in El Salvador.
But then you move on to the experimentation. Yes, of course, that's been embedded into our minds. The Nazis experimented on innocent people. Candace, come on, that's the difference. They experimented on twins. I mean, some of the stories, by the way, sound completely absurd. I mean, like the idea that they just like cut a human up and then sewed them back together. Why would you do that?
Candace Owens starts having a shower argument just with herself and somehow manages to put herself in a corner because she just can't help herself but question if Nazi experiments ever even happened. Why would you even do that? Sounds weird to me.
Why would you do that? Literally, even if you're the most evil person in the world, that's a tremendous waste of time and supplies. Just slice a person in half and sew them together. That just sounds like bizarre propaganda, but let's just go with it. Let's say that that's actually true.
I cannot think of a reason why you would do this, so it must never happen. Like, America did unethical experimentation during the 40s too. It was the 40s. Japan did it in China during World War II. There was a lot of race science and a lot of people looking to justify race science by cutting people into pieces and torturing them.
Okay, that experimentation is the thing that sets the Nazis apart. Well, why did we bring them all over here thereafter? What was Operation Paperclip? We took all of those top Nazi scientists and we brought them to America. I wonder why we did that. Maybe for a little more experimentation.
Candace brings up Operation Paperclip, which was the mass onboarding of Nazi scientists into the American space program. So now that the Nazis are in the American government, she believes the experiments happened. But when the Nazis just did it on their own, then, oh, I don't know, that just sounds weird.
Oh, but Candace, the Nazis murdered people with special needs. You heard of Planned Parenthood?
Sponsored by American Financing. Get your loans refinanced. Use code Hitler today. Then Candace picks up this book about the CIA and starts reading about heinous experimentation the government engaged in during the 1960s, which I believe happened. But for some reason, so does Candace.
In 1968, CIA scientists at the Bien Hoa prison outside Saigon surgically opened the skulls of 3 prisoners, implanted electrodes on their brains, gave them daggers, and left them alone in a room. They wanted to shock the prisoners into killing one another. But when the efforts failed, the prisoners were shot And their bodies were burned. Why would you do that?
So wait, when she's talking about CIA experiments, all of a sudden she can whip out a book. But when she's talking about Nazi experiments, she's like, oh, that doesn't sound right. I don't know. What about this is so easy to believe that's hard to believe about Nazi experiments?
But there, of course, if we do it, it's different. It's different because we're not literally Hitler. We drop bombs on entire populations. We firebomb Christians. We drop a nuke on praying Catholics.
Okay, now Candace has completely lost me. She's trying to make it like a one side or the other thing, like Hitler or the Allies, and Hitler is actually the good guy and the Allies are actually the bad guy. But the whole reason people say literally Hitler is because America does the same things Hitler did. According to Candace, because Nazi Germany never bombed praying Catholics, they're better than America. By the way, I think she also got this from Wikipedia. I think she goes to Wikipedia pages for conflicts America has been involved in and Control F searches Catholic. Because when you do that exact thing for the Wikipedia page for Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the page describes how there was a church around 500 meters away from the initial blast at Nagasaki. But it wasn't the deliberate target. The whole area was the target. It's a nuke. The blast radius is 1.6 kilometers. There is all kinds of shit in that radius. The part that matters the most is that it was a civilian area, rather than the fact that there happened to be Catholics there. I'm sure there was all kinds of people there. Also, they rebuilt the church, so not really an excuse for the Nazis or whatever.
The crime is not actually dropping a bomb on praying civilians in Nagasaki. That's not the crime. The crime is not firebombing people through Ash Wednesday in Dresden who were civilians, children. No, that's not the crime. The crime is you knowing. It's me knowing. That's the real problem.
Candace's point is that America's bad because it's anti-Christian. And Hitler was never anti-Christian. But don't say she's saying Hitler's good. She's just saying America's bad. And Hitler didn't do the thing that America is bad for. The real villain is the Soviet Union, okay?
They get real upset when you talk about the Bolsheviks. You want to know why? Because the Bolsheviks were never brought to heel. The Bolsheviks never had to face trials. There were no Nuremberg trials for the Bolsheviks. In fact, many of them came to America, and many of them are in positions of power right now.
The Bolsheviks from 1917? So she is a Nazi. This is Nazi talking points, just word for word. Candace is trying so hard to make Christian a victimized identity that she could do like a reverse vengeance genocide against Jewish people if she can blame them for Christians being killed. I think that's her plan here. And it's super fucked up. And in the process, she's continually sanitizing Nazis and Hitler.
If you're looking for people that behave like literally Hitler, it ain't me, buddy.
Candace's consistent conflation of communist and Bolshevik really betrays her attempt at plausible deniability. When she says Bolshevist, she really does mean Jewish.
And I was very interested in learning about the Bolsheviks and the Soviets because I think they are the most hideous people in the entire world. They brought every ill that we're fighting in society today. I actually think we're fighting communism in America today and we're fighting socialists in America today because of the fact that we never really defeated the Soviets. Instead, we locked arms with them.
Like, I've described Candace as cynical a couple of times in this video, but at a certain point, it's just insidious.
We never really defeated the Soviets. Instead, we locked arms with them. What was Operation Paperclip? We took all of those top Nazi scientists and we brought them to America. I wonder why we did that.
The level of historical revisionism, cherry-picked data, hinging heavily on a presumed sympathy for fascists. It's all incredibly disturbing and incredibly anti-Semitic. Strike 2, Candace. That's a big one. That was a long one. Strike 2, Hopfly, Roundhouse. Strike 3 is not that much better than the last one, but it is a little mysterious because the video's been deleted and Candace was actually banned for posting this. So hopefully I don't also get banned for talking about it. Before Candace was fired from the Daily Wire, she went out on stage with Kanye West in a shirt that read "White Lives Matter." And this was the beginning of a relationship between the two. Ultimately, Candace was using Kanye for financial benefit, but still, apparently they hit it off and made some content together. This interview got her banned, not the one with the, alleged human trafficker.
One of my habits now is ignoring all data. I can prove to you that the ice caps are melting. There's ice in my water right now.
Now, apparently Candace Owens wanted to post this video on her channel while she was still working with the Daily Wire, but it was rejected. I'm assuming for obvious reasons. But this, of course, made her and Kanye very angry. So they recorded an interview anyway, by themselves, in the middle of the night, and Candace waited until she had her own platform to finally post it. And then it got deleted for hate speech. Candace prefaces the video whining about how what was happening at the time was really hard on her.
It was the toughest moment in my entire career. I had never felt more pressure externally from the media and from friends for me to condemn Yay.
Which is weird because all she had to do was not do the things that she was doing. The interview starts with Kanye and Candace talking about how they should start a Godcast, which is kind of like a podcast, but with God in it, because they don't say God enough in the media.
We were talking about doing a Godcast for a while, actually. So this works. Why did the word Godcast come to you?
Rhyme with podcast. They had God in it.
Okay. So it wasn't an ego thing? People will say, oh, yay, Jesus, Godcast. Is there any messaging in that?
Just the more we could say God, the better. The more we could say God in the media, the better.
Yeah, I agree.
We're off to a really good start. Less than 10 minutes into watching this interview, this creeping feeling started taking over my heart and mind. A feeling that this was less of a professional interview and more of a manic, narcissistic yap session. I was right.
There's something about you and I coming together that the media cannot stand.
Right.
It's actually fascinating to me. I called you super stressed out 3 nights ago. And I was just like, what the heck am I going through right now?
The media just can't handle them being together. They just can't handle them hanging out all the time. I don't know if that's it, or if it's maybe more the things that they say, with their mouths. Laundering responsibility for the things you say onto the media being mad at you or something, I guess is a really great way to say that none of this is your fault and you're really the victim and you're a sweet little baby that is being tormented by the world. You did nothing wrong and everything's gonna be okay.
I'm so happy because I have this freedom from beholding to these brands that say, we only rock with you under these conditions. We can have you be a black person, but only a black person that says is wearing a Black Lives Matter t-shirt.
Yeah, brands usually only want to rock with you on the conditions that you don't believe in Jewish funded white genocide, at least openly.
The idea that black people are not Jew is the greatest lie that's ever sold, because you don't see the Jewish abortion rate at the same level as the black abortion rate. 50% of black deaths a year is actually abortion. You don't see the Jewish divorce rate at the level of 70 something. You said the percent of black moms raising their kids by themselves. You don't see Jewish people shooting each other down in the street on World Star and then rapping about it.
Maybe someone from the CIA told him this. I don't know how else he would come to this conclusion or even care about this.
When I said DEFCON 3, I didn't get an opportunity to say what that meant, but it meant I'm going to call out all these things that have been done to me specifically by Jewish people that so happen to be businessmen or businesswomen, but still it was done by Jewish people to me, to the darker Jew.
He was about to go in on all the stuff Jewish people have done to him. He doesn't really say what they've done or who it was or why being Jewish has anything to do with it.
Doug Charney said, hey, I want to take you to the Holocaust Museum. And I said, I want you to go to our Holocaust Museum, Planned Parenthood. We're still in the Holocaust. 6 million Jewish people died in the Holocaust. Over 20 million darker Jews, black people, have been aborted.
Comparing the Holocaust to abortion, Candace Owens' favorite fucking thing to do. This is directly evangelical Christian nationalist propaganda. Propaganda that tells people to treat women like criminals for getting abortions.
You can't even Google, when you Google Jewish abortion rate, it'll be one piece of information. The next information is from 4 years ago or something. There's no information about it.
High abortion rate is because of fucking poverty, because kids are too expensive, because the cost of living is too high, and black people are at the forefront of gentrification. Kanye says he's tried to have this conversation with Jewish people. Whoever they are, I hope they're okay.
If I fail by attempting to have a conversation with a Jewish person about the abortion rate, they won't allow the conversation to be had. That's why I said, hey, I'm me-tooing the Jewish race.
Candace Owens doesn't even like Me Too. She thinks Harvey Weinstein's fucking innocent. I'm about 20 minutes in. I think Candace has said 3 fucking sentences. This whole podcast is so annoying because Kanye just keeps going and interrupting himself mid-sentence to go on another tirade or talk about another story. He's unstable. She's using him for views. It's a very gross relationship going on here. But it really just amounts to Candace Owens staring as Kanye says some really anti-Semitic, really anti-black shit. And then he starts asking people to give him some respect for being brave enough to say all this out loud. And he's right. No one is calling him brave. That is crazy.
People got to put some respect on the fact that I'm actually brave enough to say this out loud. That's what's lit. That's what God is inside of me. That's why I feel so good to be used.
Kanye and Candace start talking about executives in the music industry and in Hollywood in general. And they talk a lot about how, you know, almost every executive is Jewish and they control these industries when that's not really true.
And my thing about the media, the majority of the media, over 50% of the media, at least, it's probably 80%, but over 50% of the media is run by Jewish executives. And they allow all of this abortion-driven content that more affects the darker Jew, the black people, more than any other race.
But if you started singling out every person in entertainment who was Irish, you'd get a lot of fucking people. And there's no Irish conspiracy to control entertainment. Now, I am saying that as an Irish person.
That's why I say the Jewish people have bought the black voice.
And that's what you meant by it, is that they're disproportionately represented in media. And so if something that you say is something that they don't like, they won't allow you to have it said. That's what you meant. That's getting more specific.
I just don't even know what he means by this. He says so much shit in this interview that just doesn't make any sense. It's like he just wanted it to be a headline. He wanted to say like the most clickbaitable shit. It's so fucking annoying. Like literally the next thing he says is comparing a woman going through sexual abuse and having resentment for men to having gone through the music industry.
A woman can be scarred by men just off of one bad experience with a man. Mm-hmm. Perhaps it might be a 6-year-old girl that has an experience she shouldn't have had with an uncle. And that woman ends up being a stripper or, you know, disliking men. So imagine if that woman had that experience with 10 men, right? So I can tell you I've had 10 bad experiences with Jewish execs. So if that woman had that experience with 10 men, she may say this term, men are all the same. She could sing it. She could say it.
It's not even close to the same thing. Dude, this interview is so fucked up.
And imagine if she was just like beautiful. Like if she had like the face of Irina Shayk or the body of Candace Swanepoel or the body of Kim or something like that, right?
Like she could have the body of Kim or something like that. My ex-wife who left me. It's really funny to say this to Candace Owens, by the way, who if someone did hate men because of their previous experiences being sexually exploited or abused, Candace would immediately deny that person's feelings. She would say, "How so much for the tolerant left, but you're a fake feminist because you don't love everybody. Free Harvey." You can't use this argument here. She wouldn't agree.
I'm at a place where I'm like, I'm not going to talk specifically to Jewish businessmen because the Jewish businessmen are the ones who have done the things to me, to hurt me and to hurt my friends.
What the fuck is he saying? I don't talk to Italian businessmen. I don't trust them. What if they're in the mafia? Like that would be more of a realistic prejudice than not talking to Jewish people because you think they're gonna, I don't know, screw you over or take advantage of you. He hasn't even explained like what they've done to him. Bad experiences. I tried to show him porn and he didn't like it.
The funny thing about the Jewish media is I have their attention. They love me. They always love me. I have their attention.
So you're referring to media executives. So like...
Executives, yeah.
Yeah, so like TMZ is owned by Harvard, and that's one Hollywood publication that would like be writing about you all the time.
TMZ is always reporting on Kanye. They report on everything. Saying that an outlet is like is Jewish media because the CEO or whatever happens to be Jewish is fucking crazy, by the way. Like, this is anti-Semitism. This is really fucking gross. This video did deserve to get banned, I'll say it. Candace Owens recites a really long excerpt from a Jay-Z song.
Truth be told, I'd probably be lyrically Talib Kweli. Truthfully, I want to rhyme like common sense, but I did 5 mil, and I ain't been rhyming like common sense. When your sense got that much in common, and you've been hustling since, the only perception for perception go with what makes sense. Since I know what I'm up against, we as rappers must decide what's most important. And I can't help the poor if I'm one of them. So I got rich and gave back. To me, that's the win-win.
To make some stupid point that I don't care about, and Kanye's not listening at all till he asks.
And what record label was he on that helped influence that decision? It was a Jewish record label.
Okay, what was it? I don't know. See, I don't know the industry.
Universal, Def Jam.
Yeah, Def Jam. He was definitely
a Jewish and French, because you got Vivendi that owns Universal, but French. That's super colonizers like French. The French own 80% of African banks.
Wait, like, okay, he's right about the French. What the fuck? What does that have to do with Jewish? I hate this. I hate when they talk about things that are true a little bit. Kanye says there's an argument in the Jewish media on whether or not to give him a platform. I don't think there's any examples of this. I don't think he has any inside information or anecdote even.
It's a balance. There's like an argument that's happening inside of the Jewish media right now. Like, do we give him the platform? Do we not give him the platform?
Because not giving you the platform is almost proving your point.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have a Jewish executive who makes a decision that you're not allowed to be on the platform, then you go, okay, well, you prove my point, right? Whereas
That's why we're in your house right now. Because they wouldn't let us talk on Daily Wire, specifically for me having the claim, the possibility that the darker Jew known as blacks that came from Africa could possibly be Israelites, that could possibly be Jew.
And the only example Kanye has is literally the Daily Wire not letting them do this interview, and they shouldn't have. It sucks balls. It's a bad interview.
If people could be transgender, why couldn't they be trans race? You can define who you are.
Rachel Dolezal was trans race. She got an OnlyFans. She's not deplatformed.
If people can be transgender, why can't they be trans race? It's so disingenuous for Candace to agree with that. Candace, if a fucking purple-haired SJW said this to you, you would start foaming at the mouth. But Kanye West says it, well, maybe he's got a point. Maybe he is Jew. I'm skipping a bunch of this because a lot of the podcast is just unintelligible rambling. It's just a fucking hodgepodge grab bag of anything and everything. But all of it being anti-Semitic, slanted to the right, fascistic, chauvinistic, misogynistic, and anti-black. And I finally skipped to the part where it gets good, where I could finally share a little bit of my expertise. Kanye West is talking about making a podcast where he and Candace Owens play video games.
I don't know what God's plan is for me. Norsemen, they fight to the death. But I'm willing, I'm willing to give my life for what God calls me to do. But I think it'd be cool to have a podcast where we're playing video games on a really big screen, and then we're just talking. Imagine being able to even attract the entire video game community as voters.
Dude, imagine if you could unite all gamers to vote.
Right. Attract them onto Parler too.
Wait, ew! She was like, get them onto Parler too. The gamers like me. Ew, ew.
Attract them onto Parler too. But it's true. Yeah, they like me, by the way. The gamers love Candace Owens. I stood up for them with the BS.
If you don't remember, this is in 2022, and this is around the time that Candace Owens is trying to sell her husband's free speech platform, Parler, which is crawling, or at least was, crawling with Nazis and MAGA freaks. They were trying to sell that website to Kanye West at the time. I think Candace is trying to pitch Parler here.
The original Me Too was Gamergate, but that's a way deeper, lower thing that people can't even talk about. The gamers get what I just said with that. But that was the original Me Too, and that's what brought me to my awakening. So I like the gamer community.
The original Me Too was Gamergate? Is she saying what I think she's saying? Because in Candace's mind, Me Too is an unjustifiable, reactionary, hypersensitive movement, jailing men for crimes they never committed or accosting them for things they never did or said. Just like, I guess, Gamergate was an unjustifiable campaign of harassing women journalists for things they never said, and they didn't even do anything wrong and they didn't deserve it. I guess that's what Candace Owens is saying.
The only thing is, what game do we play? That's a serious question.
Life, the game of life.
No. It has to be a good video game. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be one of the old ones. It has to be Donkey Kong or something.
Yeah.
I don't want to play freaking Grand Theft Auto.
I'm not big Grand Theft. I mean, life is Grand Theft Auto. I'm not. We're in Grand Theft Auto.
Right.
That's the closest to the simulation of our life. That and the Bible itself.
Wait, Grand Theft Auto is the closest simulation to life. That and the Bible. Maybe this podcast isn't so bad after all.
I'm just envisioning where this Godcast or this Sleepycast or this Dreamcast can go. I'm ideating and envisioning the next frontier of where this is. But I'm just overwhelmed by what, God has done for me today. I'm happier than I've ever been
All right, guys, so there you have it. So many thoughts probably racing through your head.
What a way to end it. Who knows how long it drug on for after that. God, they really shouldn't have posted this. It is so fucking unprofessional. I haven't even mentioned how there's like 3 or 4 different camera angles and none of them make any fucking sense. It looks like shit. And they talk so many times about doing this as like a regular thing, starting like a media venture podcast together. That never happened.
I'm grateful to God for it because it was kind of the eye of the storm. And I think a lot of the stuff that he said was extremely valid.
I'm sure she remembers it and was listening. The first time I watched this podcast, interview, Godcast, Let's Play, I walked away from it kind of grossed out, little icked. Like, Candace is clearly exploiting somebody who is unstable, I guess just permanently now. It's been years at this point of Kanye acting like this. He is responsible for himself past a certain point. But not only do I feel like Candace is preying on Kanye for the opportunity to make money from the views and the sponsorships she put on this fucking video.
I am protecting my savings with gold and silver. You probably heard me talk about my newest partner, Goldco. They've helped me buy precious metals and they couldn't have made the process any easier. Right now, all you have to do is make a minimum $15,000 cash purchase and you'll get a 5% instant match in bonus silver.
But like I said, she was trying to sell her husband's social media app to Kanye at the time. And this would have been like a multi-million-dollar deal. So Candace did actually get banned for a week from uploading on YouTube at all because of this interview, because they say the Jews control the media like fucking 7 times. To my surprise, Candace actually didn't speak a lot about being banned, at least not publicly. She gave a little interview on some random podcast about it and made a tweet. There will be no show today or at all this week. That's because YouTube has issued me a strike and a 1-week suspension for my sit down with Kanye. They also removed the interview as hate speech as it was mass reported by Zionists. Their tactics never change. All who watched that podcast know that Ye was calm and filled with love, speaking about the world coming together to defeat evil.
I'm me tooing the Jewish race.
2.5 million people watched my debate with Rabbi Shmuley last week. That's a different video, actually. The world knows why I'm being targeted, and frankly, I've never felt more confident that I'm the right person for this to happen. This is Candace covering for her own anti-Semitism and Kanye's anti-Semitism by claiming Zionists are the ones who would have a problem with Kanye saying Jews control the media, especially using Zionist in this context. It's definitionally anti-Semitic. It's fucked up. It's dangerous. In this podcast are 2 Christians who don't exactly have the fucking Palestinian struggle at top of mind. They are channeling their own grievances through a lens of anti-Semitism because they think Jewish people have screwed them over. And it can't be because of things that they've said or they've done or how they fucking suck ass. It's gotta be Jews' fault. But I don't know, Candace and Kanye really didn't have a lot of time to touch on geopolitical issues because they were too busy talking about fucking gamers and video games.
Dreamcast. I used to like that. It was like Sega had a Dreamcast.
Yeah, I know. I used to play on it. Sonic.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Sonic too.
Sonic is just a bomb game. That and Donkey Kong on Nintendo.
Why didn't Candace mention that in their response? Guys, we were making a Godcast. Now, Candace responded to some of the critique from the Kanye West interview in a video titled, Russell Brand and I are going to break the internet. Hasn't aged super well. In this video, Candace doubles down on the Holocaust revisionism, says she's not a denier. She's more of a flipper. Holocaust flipper. The actual Holocaust that Hitler did didn't matter that much. The Germans went through way more at the hands of Stalin.
Today, the Zionist media is trying to convince the public that I'm worse than a flat earther. I'm, you guessed it, a Holocaust denier.
But Candace very firmly tries to paint all Christians throughout history as consistently victimized by the Allied powers or the United States or Western forces.
Christians are always the bad guys. Every time you learn about Christian history, we're always the bad guys. You learn about the Spanish Inquisition, we're lied about what actually took place then because it makes Catholics and Christians look bad. I am just very passionate now about using my platform to awaken Christians around the world.
That is so ahistorical. It doesn't even make sense. She blames Zionist media multiple times for censoring her.
We have a cell of Zionist media. We have people that are working to further the interests of Israel, and that is why they keep taking me out of context.
I think what you're talking about is that every piece of what you have created has been owned by a Jewish executive, and that there's a disproportionate amount of Jewish executives in Hollywood. Like if I was going to get my nails done, I might say there's disproportionate amount of Vietnamese people wearing the nail salons. You know what I'm saying?
She is back on the Nagasaki shit, saying it was the most Christian city in Japan, as if that's why we nuked it.
At 11:02 a.m., when the bomb was dropped on the cathedral, Nagasaki was the most Christian city in Japan.
And it was only bad to nuke Hiroshima and Nagasaki because Christians died. Candace ends this segment in a really fucking disgusting way, calling back to the story of unmarked graves found at Canadian residential schools, calling it a hoax, and calling it blood libel against Catholics.
They said that they had found a mass grave that was containing the remains of Indigenous children that they allegedly discovered beneath a Catholic church, right? So they were like, oh, this used to be a government boarding school run by the Catholic Church. We just dug up these bones of the Indigenous people. So now we realize that Catholics were mass murdering Indigenous people. Guess what? That entire story turned out to be a hoax. I think the term that people like to use is a blood libel against Christians.
It's not a hoax. It's not even close to blood libel. And what Candace is doing is fucking genocide denial. Again! I'm not a Holocaust denier. I don't think any genocide happened except to Christians, apparently. Like, the residential schools in Canada fostered rampant sexual and physical abuse. They absolutely killed children directly and via neglect, and they absolutely buried them on the grounds of those fucking schools. This isn't a hoax. But Candace has to constantly portray Christians and Catholics as victims. The biggest victims historically. I guess to justify right-wing oppression as a sort of vengeance campaign. And that is one of the major differences between someone like Candace and any anti-Zionist you would come across. Anti-Zionists oppose all genocide. They say never again, when Candace Owens and people like her say, when is it our turn? Literally no different from fucking Netanyahu or Ben Gvir. Strike 4, strike 5, you're fired from baseball. Candace's anti-Semitic propaganda serves two primary functions for her political goal. She wants to sanitize the legacy of the Nazis and Hitler while erasing the Holocaust. And she does this because, well, she doesn't like Jews, and she does like Nazis. Part of it really is that simple, I think. She and Israel both do this with the explicit intent to endanger Jews outside of Israel and to otherize Jews in their own communities, regardless of their individual feelings on Israel. And long term, I think the intention is to pressure Jewish people out of Western countries and into Israel, the place for Jews. Like, that is terrifying to me. Candace is an anti-Semitic propagandist that has pulled the wool over the eyes of her own audience by weaponizing historical revisionism and Holocaust denial to fearmonger and to spread misinformation and anti-Semitism. I want to make it very clear that my community and my channel will always be a safe space for Jewish people. And I will always be an ally in the fight against anti-Semitism. Not just because it's the right thing to do, but also because it's only part of the fight for a free Palestine, but a necessary part nonetheless. I hope this video was informative and helpful for people. Thank you so much for watching. Free Palestine, fuck anti-Semitism. I'll see you next time. Bye.